Welcome! You're listening to Making Relationships Work. We're a company focused on women and their marriage. We lead and teach women just like you how to grow into and access, whenever you need to, your wise woman self. The part of you who is deeply connected to your purpose, your innate wisdom, and your husband and family. We teach women in marriages how to rebuild trust and connection, to work through conflicts no matter how deep, no matter how painful, and to lead your marriage to a place where the two of you experience marriage mastery. This podcast is about learning the systems and techniques that truly work to reconnect you back into your marriage so that you can experience the freedom that comes with a masterful marriage. Since this podcast is totally free, if you're getting tons of value and you want to support us and make sure that you get more of this good stuff, subscribe below and rate and review our podcast today. Now, on to the show. Well, hi there. Hi, Making Relationships Work. Hello, Women Making Marriages Work. Hello to our Facebook group. Hello to our YouTube and podcast channels. Guess what we're talking about tonight? We are going to talk about the cascade of negative emotions that lead to separation. So it might be that the separation we're talking about is, I've decided it's the end of the marriage kind of separation. It might be that the separation is, I've put a wall up between you and me to cope, and I'll take it down when I feel safe again. Or it might be, just that I am going to start living alongside of you, but in a separateness. And those three combinations are the baseline of the types of clients I work with. They'll be in one of those three categories. And so I wanted to talk to you tonight about what those three categories are, what you do about them, and also how you got there so that you can undo it, because everything is undoable if both of you want to do it. And everything is undoable even if only one of you wants to do it. And that's a whole other conversation, but we'll do a lot of it tonight, I promise. So where I wanted to start from is how these things happen. How do you end up when you first got married, when you first decided it was together forever, when you first said, this is my person? There was a lot of hope there. There was a lot of love there. There was a lot of high energy there. There was a tendency to see the best even when you had difficulties. There was a sense of, we can do anything. What might we do together in this lifetime we've decided to be with each other for? Might we have children? Might we travel? Might we build a house? Might we pursue our dreams and become grape farmers? What might we do? And that is the positive intent upon which just about any relationship is formed on. But when we're talking about spouses, or when we're talking about significant others or husbands, then what we're talking about is the sense of, I want to be with you for a long time, for my lifetime. I'm not choosing you to be one of the people that gets divorced. I'm not choosing you to separate. I'm choosing you because you are who I want to be with. And so every relationship starts in a version of that. Sure, there are different splices and dices, but fundamentally it comes down to, I choose you because I have a hope for us, and I'm choosing you and I have no intention of getting divorced. And so when we start from that premise, and then we look at the statistics, Australia and America have very similar separation and divorce statistics. It's around 50%. We engage in those relationships not expecting us to be the couple that's in the 50% that gets divorced. We just assume that it'll be somebody else. And so as we find our way through the relationship, what we know is that it takes about 6 years of hard, stress or critical experiences or misunderstood interactions or needs not being met. It takes about 6 years of that downward spiral before one or both of people say, that's it, this isn't working, I think we should separate. Or, this isn't working, I think we should get help. Now, we know that not many people in that kind of 6 years of crisis get help that works. That's a whole other conversation. Let's focus on the people that are at that 6-year crux that find their way to me, because where they are is they've had an emotional need that hasn't been met. They have felt dismissed by their partner for having that emotional need that wasn't met. They then use their coping strategies like blaming, denying, justifying, defending themselves so that they feel okay with who they are. So they then cut the connection with the other person and look to make sure the psychological experience for themselves is safe. So to do that, we make it the other person's fault or the other person's problem. We don't look at the co-createdness of it. We look at, I tried, they missed me, they hurt me, I'm putting my wall up and I'm not going there, and it's their fault. Why can't they just? They never do this. They haven't been there. They don't know me. I'm so lonely. That sounded a bit like a song, but I didn't mean it to. And so after we get that sense of blame, deny, justify, defend, escalate, rage, resentment, bitterness, then what we have happen is something altogether different. It is the emotional disengagement. So we say, well, I tried to fix this. I tried to talk about it with you. I tried to look after my own psychological self by moving the blame onto you. And now, after a period of 6 years or so, I'm just going to stay here. I'm not going to try and come back, because if I come back, I feel like all of what we've been through will be disregarded and I'll get hurt again. Yes? And so you can imagine that two people having this same experience, because both of you are, means that you get further and further and further apart. And so what then happens is this further apart is this idea of parallel lives. So I might be living under the same roof, we might be co-parenting okay, but we're not quite touching each other. We're not quite together. And in the not quite together, we have the growing need to find somebody that does do that. So sometimes that's with an affair partner. Sometimes that's an emotional affair. Sometimes that's overuse of a friend and it stays platonic, but the emotional heart is gone in the relationship. And so when you've got those layers, you've got this sense of, I tried to be with you and you broke my heart, or you didn't notice me and you didn't meet my needs. And so then I escalated it, and then you told me what you're feeling isn't worth very much, or I can't help you, or I don't know, or it's too much for me. Then where I go is a disconnect, and then where you go is a disconnect. And then we start to lead these lives of looking after our own emotional safety, psychological safety. And then we start to separate parallel lives. And then we say, well, there's nothing here. I want a friend beside me who is my friend and who cares about me. And then we start very often imagining past partners or projecting onto other men or women that they would be the perfect partner for us because we are a wonderful partner, and it's the other person's problem or fault that we aren't understood for who we are. And so you can see when both people are working in these spaces, how the separation comes, how the disconnect happens. And the tricky thing is, how do we bring it back? Now, remember at the beginning of this conversation, I said to you, everything can be brought back. Everything can be fixed. If one person wants it, we can do it. If two people want it, we can do it. Do we do it a bit differently if there's one or both? Yeah, but of course. And so where we might go next is, if you've got where you are kind of laid out and what I've described matches that, then let's look at what it is that you do want. You want to have an emotional need and to be able to say what that is, and to have your friend, your partner, turn towards you and say, I see that, I get it, what can I do to help? It makes sense to me that you feel like this. How can you and I be a team where it's us against the world? How can we create something different so that we both understand what just happened, and next time it's different? We have a different experience. That's what we call a masterful relationship. That's what we call a couple who is in a space where they're tuned into each other and they're in that beautiful synchronicity, that beautiful sense of ecosystem or bubble of balance, where there's two people leading. Sometimes one follows, sometimes one leads, sometimes one leads, sometimes one follows. And when there's a break in connection, when there's a misstep, when there's an intended or unintended hurt, both people say, oh, what just happened? Where are we? How do we come back to each other? We're looking to create a relationship like it was at the beginning, where you just assumed the other person had your best interest at heart. It was just kind of your belief. And over time, that's 6 years, it's really downgraded, downregulated, decreased. Where it's really decreased in how much certainty you have that your friend, your partner, really didn't mean to hurt you. You now have this belief, or this series of beliefs, and you have evidence for those beliefs, that some of which you created, some of which are true, that they don't have your best interests at heart, that they're not going to come towards you and try and figure it out, that there'll be a wall go up or a separation happen and you'll miss your friend. And at some point you'll be able to find each other, but how many days is this? And it escalates and escalates and escalates. And so what we're looking for is you to live, both of you live in the certainty of knowing that your friend will come home to you emotionally, physically, that your friend will want to know what's on your mind, that your friend will stop and work through a problem, that your friend sees the best in you. Both of you want that. Both of you want to be regarded highly. Both of you want to be understood and appreciated. Both of you want to be noticed and create and work towards dreams that you have for each other in your life, in this experience you're creating together. And so when that's not happening, we have that downward spiral we just talked about. When we have that downward spiral we just talked about, life gets harder. And when it gets harder, we start to check out, and we start to find reasons why it's your fault, not my fault, because I don't want to be the person who failed at their marriage. I don't want to be the person who couldn't figure it out. It's your fault. I don't want that responsibility as my identity. And so here we have two people who really love each other, who really want to create something beautiful together, who are stuck not being able to create something beautiful together. And without an intervention, this isn't going away. And without somebody who sees it differently, this isn't going to change. We've got two people who are stuck in an old pattern, surrounded by caring people in their community who don't know how to do it differently either. And if they are living a different life than this couple, they don't know how to translate that into strategic, functional, clear, step-by-step ways of doing it. And so here's where I invite you to watch my masterclass if you haven't already, because I'm going to lay out for you 5 strategies there that you need to start to bring you back home to each other. We're not doing that here. Here, what we're doing is we're just talking about you being the person who breaks the ecosystem of a downward spiral. So if you've been in trouble for 6 years, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but if you've been in trouble and you're noticing that year on year, it's actually that bit worse, it's not actually getting better, then you can self-diagnose the very real need to have something fundamentally different. And it's not information that you need, it's not step-by-step blog posts on how to reconnect with your husband by wearing sexy lingerie. It's not that. That's what the community around you is telling you. That's not what the real difference is. The real difference is deep and lasting patterns that are changed and upgraded, and so are your skills. Because you're missing each other. You actually don't recognize the cues of the other person and what's behind them. And because you don't recognize that they're cues for help me, I want to be known, I want to be appreciated, I want to be loved, I want to be understood, you dismiss them, or they become too hard. And so when that happens, we lose an opportunity and we create an environment that inherently feels distrustful because I needed my friend and you weren't there. Not only that, I'm still left with what I needed and I can't articulate it to you. I can just tell you what's not working. I can complain and blame and point fingers, but behind all of that is a real need. But what is it? And how do you fix it? Yes, how do you actually meet the needs so that that disappears, that sense of I'm separate to you and I need something from you and I can't have it. That's just pain right there. That description is just pain. So you want to do this differently? Great. Stop reading blog articles. Honestly, what you need to do is watch my masterclass. Watch the masterclass. Watch the masterclass and decide that out of the two of you, it only takes one. It takes one person to say, we need to do this differently. We need a new set of skills. We need a new way of looking at each other, and we need to upgrade the way in which we interact. And I am going to be the person who leads that. Now, women are notorious for leading in history. Women invented writing. Women invented medicine. We know the pioneers of those two ways of healing and communicating come from women's roles in families. This is no different. So writing is communicating. Medicine is healing. You and your ecosystem need a new way of writing. You need some new medicine. And what we know is that you are uniquely equipped because of who you are in the relationship to be the soldier, to be the wise woman, to be the leader who goes out to get the new way of writing, to upgrade the new way of giving medicine that both of you need to take. All right, dear ones, we're going to leave that analogy alone. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is watch that masterclass and decide that you're going to join the generations of women that have come before you, that have led their families and communities into something different and bigger and more hopeful and more connected and more joyful, more us against the world, more we're in this together, more what can we create, what do you need, where are you, I miss you, my friend, I appreciate you, my friend, I love you, my friend, so that you get that back. Because what you need to really understand is the warrior goddess that you are and the ability that you have to invoke change. Never forget who you are. All right, my loves, I'll talk to you soon. You're the best. See you later. Bye. Thank you for tuning into today's show. If you're feeling fired up and you're ready to grow and you want to know more about how to do that, here is what I want you to do now. I want you to watch my marriage masterclass. This masterclass will show you how my clients have turned their struggling marriages into thriving marriages, even without their husband's buy-in. How my clients have gone from cycles of poor communication, disconnect and loneliness to being teammates and soulmates with their husbands again, even after they've already tried everything. And the proven system my clients use to start transforming their marriages in minutes, not years, because life is too precious to waste one more minute in an unhappy and unfulfilling marriage. So if this is what you're looking for, I want you to click the link below and take a look at my masterclass.